Morning, it's Tuesday, the 4th day of June 2025, and it's 10 o'clock. That means, of course, trading has opened for the day on the floor of the Nigerian Exchange in Lagos, Abuja, and at the Onitsha Exchange. A day of business has still long begun, whether you're in Onitsha main market, Ria market in Abia, Ogbete market here in Enugu, Nnewi, Port Harcourt, Owerri, Abakaliki, Asaba, wherever you are. Good morning to you. My name is Nnamdi Obanya, and you're welcome to the Afia Business Morning. This morning, we're talking about the sportsmen and women in the region, Anambra and Delta, team plus all the business news from around the region. And of course, as you know, trading on the floor of the Nigerian Exchange is open for today. The exchange in London opened an hour ago. New York Exchange is yet to open, while in China, exchange is opened at 2 time. Looking at how the markets closed yesterday on opening bell, as well as news from around the Eastern Business Report. But first, the Afia News updates.
Hello and welcome to the news update. I'm Joan Odiniwo.
On the news update, the people of Artem in Benda local government area Abia State have thanked President Bola Tinubu for approving the establishment of the Federal University of Medical and Health Sciences in their community. Still in the southeast region, the Anambra State Police Commander's Court and resident to assist in identifying and reporting criminals within their communities to help uphold law and order, prevent crime and promote public safety. In other news, the federal government has announced the creation of the International Center for Electronic Navigational Chart West African Regional Office and Training Center aimed at strengthening Nigerians' maritime capabilities and opening up new economic opportunities. On the foreign scene, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has appointed Ahn Gyun-bak as the country's first civilian defense minister in 64 years, fulfilling a campaign promise made after a failed martial law attempt in December undermined trust in the military. And finally, in the update, former Super Eagles head coach Augustine Oguavan has expressed optimism that the team still has a chance to qualify for the 2026 World Cup.
And that's what you have on the news update. Do follow us on our social media platforms. At Afia TV Official, I'm Joan Odiniwo. Many thanks for watching.
This is the Afia Business Morning, broadcasting live on Afia TV channel 254 on DSTV channel 254. Channel 17 on Go TV, 748 on Free TV. Live from Coast City, of course, Enugu. My name is Nnamdi Obanya. The NGX ended yesterday on a high, and so did China and the US. But it's all dips in London. Plus, will the revenue drives at our ports of entry give us the desired economic boost we need? Find out over the next half hour. Opening bell starts right now. This is opening bell on the Afia Business Morning. The Nigerian Stock Exchange closed on a high yesterday, but it's open in London, but rises in China and US as well. We'll be looking at how the markets ended as well as our commodities report. But first, let's take some news stories, beginning with news from the securities market, where the average yield on federal government of Nigeria bonds fell to 18.64% in the secondary market, ahead of thin supply by the Debt Management Office yesterday, with the DMO expected to offer 100 billion naira worth of local bonds across reopening and fresh issues to investors at the primary market auction scheduled for today. In the secondary market, trading activities ended on a positive note last week, buoyed by improved investor sentiment, a stronger sovereign ratings outlook, and resilient demand across maturities after trading activity on the local bonds was initially subdued, as market attention turned to the OMO auction floated earlier last week, drawing limited secondary interest due to wide bid-ask spreads. A robust outing is anticipated as the DMO seeks to tap the local market to meet the federal government's funding obligations for the fiscal year. Moving on to news from the solid minerals segment of the economy, and the Minister for Solid Minerals Development, Dr. Dele Alake, has announced the federal government support for the construction of a mineral processing plant in Nasarawa State. This was disclosed in a statement presented on behalf of the minister by his special assistant on media, Segun Tomori, where he said the plant was projected to generate more than 10,000 jobs nationwide, adding that it has a projection of $400 million in foreign direct investment. According to him, the project is Africa's largest rare earth and critical minerals plant, which will be funded by a private organization, and described the move as a significant milestone in efforts to spur investor confidence in the mining sector. The Nigerian government is set to launch a unified national credit system that links individuals' credit scores to their national identification numbers in a bid to promote transparency and accountability in the lending ecosystem, while making it easier for financial institutions to assess creditworthiness and increasing access to loans for Nigerians. The system will enable financial institutions to access comprehensive and traceable credit profiles of customers seeking loans, and from July, eligible Nigerians can access up to 2 million naira in interest-free loans, in addition to other financial options at low single-digit interest rates. The initiative targets 400,000 young Nigerians, including National Youth Corps Service members, to improve their access to financial support and promote economic growth. Okay, let's dive straight onto the floors of our featured exchanges, starting on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, where the NGX All-Share Index yesterday closed on a high, rising by 0.37%, again at 441.43 points to close at 118,579.565 points, a total of 53,656,598 shares, valued at 21,327,439,827 naira and 63 kobo, were traded across 22,206 deals with equity capitalization of 74,812,094,009,348 naira only. The biggest gainers of the day were Nimeth, FTN Cocoa, Presco, Champion, and Better Glass, which all rose by 10%. On the other hand, Julius Berger topped the losers list with a decline of 7.48%, while other losers were Chams, NSL Tech, Multiverse, and Red Star Express. Straight to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, where it's almost all rises in index values across board. The NYC Composite is up by is up by 0.3%, 100 index up by 0.5%, Dow Jones Industrial Average up by 0.56%, S&P 500 index up by 0.69%, FAAN TM index up by 0.89%, Nasdaq Composite up by 0.74%, and the other tech stock, Nasdaq 100 up, tech index up by 0.83%. And onto the floor of the London Stock Exchange, and this time it's all dips. FTSE 100 down by 0.19%, FTSE 250 down by 0.13%, the FTSE 350 is down by 0.18%, and the FTSE All-Share Index is down by 0.18%. Moving on to China and onto the floor of the Shenzhen Exchange, and just like the US, it's all rises. The Shenzhen component up by 0.43%, SLSE Composite up by 0.93%, and the Chinext Index is up by 0.39%. Stayed in China, but this time on the floor of the Shanghai Exchange, and it's even more rises. SSE Composite up by 0.65%, SSE 50 up by 0.41%, Star 50 up by 0.38%, SSE 180 up by 0.32%, SSE 380 up by 0.35%, and the CSI 300 index is up by 0.29%. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at our commodity prices as well as our consumer price watch in the open market and checking if our ports of entry can provide the money Nigeria needs as they go on yet another revenue drive. Opening bell, we'll be right back. I'm Nnamdi Obanya, and you're welcome back to Opening Bell on the Afia Business Morning, showing on Afia TV, channel 254 on DSTV, 17 on Go TV, and 748 on Free TV, live from Coast City. Now it's time to check in on our commodity prices, and we begin with our precious metals, and no movement for gold today. However, palladium is up by 2.86%, platinum is up by 1.92%, silver is up by 0.33%, it's trading at $36.13 per troy ounce. Moving on to energy prices, natural gas is down by a whopping 5.57%, coal is down by 0.34%, Brent crude down by a very heavy 9.36%. It's now trading way below the $75 benchmark, which Nigeria uses as its benchmark, trading at $70.08 per barrel. Over 300 days, 11 months, no movement on Bonny Light, but Brass River is up by 0.48%. It's trading at $79.42 per barrel. Kwa Ibo up also by 0.48%. It's trading at $79.47 per barrel. Both crude indexes trading very close to the $80 benchmark. Industrial metals, aluminum is up by 1.31%, lead is up by 1.15%, copper up by 1.16%, nickel is down by 1.12%, zinc is up by 1.15%, and tin is up by 0.85%. All right, let's take a look at the commodity prices, but the open market in prices for food and some essentials, but reversing themselves because of new hikes in prices for fuel. Over the last few weeks seems to be gone, and we see back to the era of over ₦8 per litre of fuel. Right now in Enugu, a litre of fuel is going for between, well, a bag of rice, let me start from food first. A bag of rice is going for about 94,000 naira for a bag of rice. You have Southeast averaging about 100,000. Local rice, which is supposed to be cheap, depending on the one you want. Some go for as low as 70, but most of the ones you'll find in the market going as high as 100,000. Lagos, you will get rice between 63,000, 68,000, averaging at about 65,000 naira. And for the 1 litre basin, gets as high as 10,000 naira. 4 litre basin, of course, what we call one painter, Enugu, well higher than that average. Price of beans, a bag in Enugu goes for about 65,000 naira. That's what you get everywhere. 4 litre basin, about 6,000 naira, moderately cheaper in Lagos. Gari prices in some places have crossed the 100,000 naira boundary, but on the average, you will get Gari for about 80,000 naira. Enugu, about 90,000, a bit more expensive. And the 4 litre basin, which dropped to about 2,500, 3,000 in some places, has started pushing up again back towards 5,000. We're watching this space. It's currently hovering around the 3,500 mark, with some places already spiking above that. Yam tubers, still a bit of consistency there, going for between 4,000 to 6,000. Places like Enugu, again, one of the more expensive places to get yam. For plantain prices, like going for between 6,000 and 12,000, depending on where you are. And now we're seeing much smaller bunches. What used to be the 12,000 naira plantain bunch is not readily available. If you want to get that size, that goes for as high as 20,000. But the much slightly smaller bunch available now, going for about 12,000 on the average. Some going as high as 15,000. Of course, the closer you are to an agri, the cheaper the plantains. But in the open market, far more expensive. Cooking oil prices, where there is some stability, still going for about 10,000 naira. If you want 5 litres of palm oil, Lagos higher than the national average. 50,000 for 25 litres, again Lagos much higher than the national average. Groundnut oil prices ranging anywhere from 15,000 to 18,000. Lagos, Enugu on the higher end of the groundnut oil price. This is for 5 litres, 25 litres, going as high as 60,000, and Enugu and Lagos are the places where you will get those high prices. Vegetable oil mapping exactly as groundnut oil is, and just like groundnut oil, vegetable prices are highest in Lagos and Enugu, two of the most expensive places. Fuel prices now, and Enugu, well, prices are up now. It's between 950 and 980,000. A lot of places selling at 950,000. For petrol prices, it's between 925 and 950 in Lagos. Diesel prices going for between 1,120 and 1,200. while that's in Enugu. Lagos prices going for between 992 and 1,050. Kerosene prices going for between 1,000 and 1,150. A bit of stability nationwide. Cooking gas prices anywhere from 1,100 to 1,200. It's about 1,160 in cooking gas. I'm sure the graphics will soon be updated to map current pricing. And of course, we'll have a special report on the Eastern Business Report later, so you don't want to miss that as well. But one final break, and when we come back, Nigeria is looking to the ports of entry for increased revenue. Are we going to get it right this time? Find out when Opening Bell returns. On the Afia Business Morning, and you're welcome back to Opening Bell on Channel 254 on DSTV, and of course, Channel 17 on GoTV, and 748 on Free TV. And just in case you're just joining or you've forgotten, my name is Nnamdi Obanya. Now, how is it that a country that is always talking about money is a celebrated example of poverty? Nigeria is always talking about revenue, but has nothing to show for it. So now we are looking at our ports of entry for increased revenue. Could this be the time we get it right? Who knows? Let's get into it. Revenue, money. It seems as if whenever you talk about Nigeria, you're talking about money. But is it that we are making money or spending money on top of innovations and world-leading endeavors? Is it that we have a strong, respected currency? Is it that we have enviable fiscal and monetary policies? The answers to all this is unsurprisingly no. You would think that with all the money talk, we will be at least one of the richest nations, if not in the world, at least in Africa. No? Okay. West Africa? No. Among our immediate neighbors? No. Well, how can this be? The giant of Africa, largest economy in Africa? Well, you need to understand how we wrongly use this term so that we can avoid confusion. First, our giant of Africa is population, and our largest economy is a mixture of population and size. We are being measured by our potential, not our output. So what happens to all the money we are always talking about? Well, we are either borrowing money, failing to pay back money, losing money, wasting money, stealing money, misusing money, or unable to even account for money. We don't even have any respect on the global stage. In 2018, just 12 years after Nigeria made its last repayment and all debts were cleared from the books of the Paris Club by then President Olusegun Obasanjo, who made sure Nigeria was debt-free. Just how many years after that, Nigeria was declared the poverty capital of the world, with 87% of us falling into poverty that year. Lucky for us, following the pandemic, India took over. Due to nothing but sheer numbers, India has over 1.4 billion people and Nigeria has just over 237 million, depending on who is estimating, because next year will make it 20 years since we did our last census. And the reading doesn't get any better. Right now, only Sudan and Somalia have a higher percentage of poor people, making us number 3 in the highest poverty ratio in the world, with just an estimated 70% living below poverty. Even countries at war are not doing as badly. To make matters worse, when we try to cook our books and use our own figures and relative income and parameters, we still have over 40% living below poverty. But talk to our government, policymakers, eggheads, and they'll be quoting irrelevant economic theories that have no effect on the price of extra meat in our soup. The thought is that we need to raise revenue. Revenue. A problem that the Nigerian government and Nigerian businesses face. We never talk about value, cost management, strategy, planning, consistency, perseverance. Nope, only revenue. And when it comes to blindly chasing revenue without thinking of impact or consequence, nobody does it better than us. Whether it's brutal taxation, levies and tax, or ruthless, ridiculous, unrealistic, and poorly thought out sales drives by businesses, it seems revenue, not value, not growth, not sustainability, not impact is all that matters. So I'm never surprised when I see a brand new, soon to fail or soon to be compromised revenue drive. And now is the turn of our ports of entry and exit. For starters, the Nigerian Ports Authority has set a revenue generation target of 1.28 trillion naira for 2025, representing a 40% increase from 894.8 billion naira, which it realized last year. And this is according to the head honcho and MPA Managing Director, Abubakar Dansoho. And he revealed this to Nigerians during the 2025 budget defense session at the House of Representatives Committee on Ports and Harbors in Abuja. So where is this projected revenue going to come from? Well, according to Mr. Dansoho, from various sources, including ship dues, where he expects 544.06 billion, cargo dues, where another 413.06 billion is expected, concession fees, where another 249.69 billion, and administrative revenue with another 73.07 billion. And he's using all the buzzwords, saying that the 2025 budget reflects, quote, the NPA's aspirations for a more efficient and globally competitive port system. All well and dandy. And he's even bragging about the Ports Authority's commitment to national revenue generation, citing its performance in 2024, where it surpassed its revenue target of 865.39 billion naira, realizing 894.86 billion naira, despite operational liquidity challenges. And everybody is happy. Chairman of the House Committee on Ports and Harbors, our very own here from Enugu, Rep. Nnamdi, urged the MPA to improve port infrastructure, ramp up performance, and play a greater role in addressing Nigeria's revenue and unemployment challenges, saying, quote, no country can thrive economically without high-performing ports. Then we have the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAAN, which has announced plans to increase tariffs for all service providers across its airports as part of its efforts to boost revenue generation. FAAN will also transition to an automated and contactless payment system, discontinuing cash payments at all payment points. For a country that produces almost nothing and depends on imports for majority of the items involved in food, shelter, and clothing, as well as their property, it's pretty ballsy of us to be hiking up fees at ports of entry, knowing that it's consumers that will bear the brunt. We're already struggling to purchase these essentials due to the semi-comatose naira, and now you want to increase tariffs and port charges. Why? Because you saw Donald Trump doing it? Do you know the Herculean manufacturing industry he's trying to revive, sustain, and grow? Do you know Americans have local alternatives for almost everything they import? Do you know that they have an actual strategy to bring back companies that have franchised the important segments of their value chain abroad? Again, another poorly thought out revenue drive, yet by another mediocre Nigerian institution. When you make this money, what happens? Politicians will loot it and share it with cronies, who in turn will send most of it back abroad, either through, directly through foreign accounts and investments, or through purchase of foreign luxury cars, watches, home appliances, premium alcohol, foreign holidays, foreign medical trips, school fees for children, awards in foreign schools. The list of how they can send it back is endless. The money is not used to develop Nigeria. Neither does it get into the hands of Nigerians to create value. We are being taxed for government enjoyment. Winston Churchill famously said, "For a nation to try to tax itself into prosperity is like a man standing in a bucket trying to lift himself up by the handle." This kind of crazy logic is comfortable here in Nigeria, and our leaders will always expend energy on counterproductive things. Please, dear government, can you think before you act? And I'll leave it at that. We'll go on a quick break as opening bell is done, but the business morning continues. Don't forget that opening bell will return tomorrow when the exchanges reopen for trading. You can also watch episodes of the Abia monologue on our YouTube page. Go to Afia TV official on YouTube and enjoy. When we come back on Afia Business Morning, Afia Sports Desk Head Ceecee Emechebe will be on set, and we'll be discussing the business of managing sportsmen and women in the region, and you don't want to miss that. Afia Business Morning, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Afia Business Morning, and now it's time to hone in on the business environment in the Eastern region. And today we're taking a special report from Abia and talking with Afia Sports Desk Head Ceecee Emechebe, and it's all about the business of managing sportsmen and women in the region. I'm Nnamdi Obanya, and this is the Eastern Business Report. This is the Eastern Business Report, where we look at the business ecosystem in the Eastern region. And today we'll be talking about the management of sportsmen and women in the region. But first, some regional news beginning in Anambra, where the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Anambra and Delta State Commands, have synergized on operational modalities to protect critical national, state, and local government assets, as well as the lives of citizens within these two states. This was and Tactical Operations, NSCDC, Anambra State Command, Okadigo Edwin, whose synergy was reached last week when the Anambra State Commandant, Marco Olatunde, hosted his Delta State counterpart, Matthew Ovie, at the NSCDC State Command headquarters in Oka. Edwin further stated that the state commandant condemned the rate of vandalism of assets and infrastructure in the areas, saying proactive measures must be taken to tackle the menace, while also commending the dedication of officers and men who tirelessly work around the clock to ensure citizen safety. And I think this interstate coordination is very important. I've always wondered why Anambra and Delta don't have more on that, being that they are both facing each other on both sides of the River Niger. It's also something the Southeast could look into, particularly states that have issues of insecurity, so that, you know, between Ihiala and Olu, Imo and Anambra could have an arrangement, between Lokpanta and Okigwe, Abia and Imo could have an arrangement. And the more of these things you have, the better for, you know, security in the states. I think, you know, security commands within states should have this kind of cooperation to boost regional security and national security as a whole. But we're moving down to Enugu, where we hear that an Enugu-based commercial farmer, Ekene Uzodinma, has appealed to the Nigerian government and security agencies to take decisive action against the escalating violence by armed Fulani herdsmen across farming communities, particularly in the Middle Belt and Southeast regions. Uzodinma, who narrated his bitter and personal experience of loss, destruction, and near-death encounters after losing hectares of rice farm in Enugu State to herders, stated that it was not an experience anyone would want to encounter, lamenting that he lost everything more than once, with part of his 30-hectare rice farm burnt down after harvest, 4-hectare cornfield set ablaze, and rice fields grazed by herdsmen's cattle multiple times. He also said he was last year physically attacked on his farm, with some of his workers sustaining machete and stabbing injuries, adding that even when one of the attackers was arrested and handed over to the police, there was a need to enforce open grazing and stronger land protection policies for rural dwellers, while calling on the President, National Assembly, state governors, and relevant agencies to stop treating the issue with kid gloves and act decisively. And I think it's something everybody is saying. Perhaps it's time we had some laws that protect farmers. We keep talking of grazing laws to protect herders. Where are the land protection laws to protect the actual farmers who are already there farming? This is what I expect from the National Assembly. Not Ruga, not ranching laws, not grazing laws, not cattle. No, farmers' laws first. They are on the land. We're having food insecurity and we have no special protection for farmers. There should be capital punishment for damaging food because you're deliberately trying to cause hunger. These are the things we expect to see, but we can only hope. As we move straight to Delta, and the federal government has been urged by the Shekiri community in Warri, Delta State, in a petition addressed to the National transparency and fairness in the award of pipeline surveillance contracts, with a demand for immediate review of contracts. Petition was presented during a press briefing held in Abuja, where Honorable Kingsley Tenuma, chairman of the Shekiri Monoyo Edon, the General Secretary, expect dissatisfaction with the current contract award process, which they claim undermines the rights of the Shekiri people as a host community. The Shekiri leaders emphasized that the current process violates the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act, which guarantees host communities retain certain rights and benefits, including participation in oil-related activities. Moving on to Cross River, and we hear that the Cross River State government has concluded plans to train about 100 of its indigenes as aviation professionals at the Lagos Aviation Academy ahead of the unveiling of its additional aircraft to its airline Cali Air. Aviation Captain Ima Eno Utum when he toured the Lagos Aviation Academy recently, as the institution marked 8 years of academic excellence in Nigeria's aviation industry, during which he also discussed workforce development challenges facing the industry, indicated a strong interest in partnering with the LAA for this initiative. And finally, still from Cross River, and the governor of Cross River State, Senator Basi Otu, has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to leverage to boost maritime development and drive economic growth in the state. Closing by the governor, represented by his deputy, Right Honorable Peter Ode, where he emphasized the transformative potential of hydrography in regional development, especially for coastal states like Cross River. He also reiterated Cross River's readiness to collaborate with federal agencies, private sector players, and international and I think I will say it. What is going on in Cross River? Every week I come on air, there's something happening in Cross River. I think it might be time very soon to take a trip down there. Look, we're not governors when they're not working, but we have to give props where props are due. And from agriculture to blue economy to aviation, it seems as if Governor Basi Otu has his thumb firmly down and his hand firmly on the handlebar, and is riding very hard to push things in Cross River State. So great credit to Cross River State. We hope that, of course, these initiatives can be undertaken properly and continued, because that's where the Nigerian problem always is. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll be talking about the business of managing sportsmen with Afia Sports Desk Head Ceecee Emechebe. The Eastern Business Report returns shortly. show is still the Eastern Business Report on the Afia Business Head Ceecee Emechebe, and we'll be talking about the business of managing sportsmen and women in the region. But first, a special report from Abia. Governor Alex Otti is set to flag off construction of a new medical city. Now, Governor Alex Otti of Abia State will, on the 10th of July, flag off the construction of the $1.3 billion Abia Medical. Reports that the State Commissioner for Information, Mr. Okekanu, made this known during a press briefing after the State Executive Council meeting. Take a look.
The team completed 1,000 5-star hotel facility and accommodation for patients and their families. Where we mentioned this already, that the total cost of the project is within $1.3 billion. It's a collaborative project between the state government and MKP National Holdings on a build, operate and transfer.
The state government is reintroducing sanitary inspector, locally known as Ndiolala, to consolidate its environmental protection policy across the state.
The reintroduction of these sanitary inspectors is one further step in the state government's agenda to deepen the successes already recorded in the area of environmental cleanliness in the state. After the formal launch here in Umuahia, the program will be replicated in the 17 areas, local government areas of the state to ensure the services of these sanitary inspectors are domiciled in our local community.
Throwing more light on the development, Mr. Ogbonnaya Okereke, the General Manager of the Abia State Environmental Protection Agency, says his agency has the required manpower to effectively execute the task.
I want to assure you that the process, now we're at the end, we went through more like integrating the sanitary inspectors. They are not new civil servants, so to say. We have them already in our workforce. So we've gone through a kind of refresher training. So do not worry, we have enough manpower to do the inspection and enforcement of sanitary rules and regulations across the state.
Well, thank you for those interviews, for that report, Emmanuel. And of course, we look forward to not only better health care, but inflow of funds from medical tourism to Abia State for the betterment of the life of all Abians. We'll go on another break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Afia Sports Desk Head Ceecee Emechebe, and we'll be talking about the business of managing sportsmen and women in the region. The Eastern Business Report returns shortly.
week, I'm sitting down with Okeke Precious, the powerhouse behind Fresh Beauty Empire. She didn't have the funds to a formal education, but she had the grit and a gift in her hands.
No matter how bad or tacky my job was then, I'll put them out on social media.
I cried. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know where to start from. I said, okay. I made up my mind to just push.
After my secondary school, so I want to go to university, but unfortunately, my parents don't have such money. So from there, I learned this business from my brother. one chocolate and I started with just 2,000 naira.
We started this business in a low cadre, but by the grace of God, at least we are moving.
After my retirement, I fall back into plumbing materials with the help of my wife.
All right, are you ready for the game segment? Okay. 30 seconds to say your brand.
Yes, I'm ready. Let's go. This is Lighthouse Electric and Fitting. We are at New Kenyatta Market, Ugwaji.
Our phone number is 080-5424-1870.
These are plumbing materials, and this is cubicle for you. We have shower sets. I'm too into mattress and pillow. You can see them.
We specialize in electrical materials, surface, and conduits.
Anybody that want to buy plumbing materials has to come to my shop at Abuja Line. Hey, no. This is why I know.
If yes, have you wondered why is this place called Afia 9?
Afia 9 is a very nice market. It's starting from before the war, Civil War itself.
Apart from the big ones, that is the main market and new market, what people didn't remember, they come here to take it.
Compared with other markets, it's fine because this is like a local market in a way because local people normally come here.
Afia 9, an everyday market, open from the early hours of the morning until late at night, is truly a community hub.
You know Biago with this.
No Biago now.
As no onye merife nada.
This is the market.
The show is still the Eastern Business Report on the Afia Business Morning. I'm Nnamdi Obanya. Recently, a sprinter, Favour Ofili, switched nationality to Turkey after being omitted for top competitions due to so-called administrative errors by the Athletics Federation of Nigeria. It's not the first time this will be happening with athletes from the region after similar treatment. Both Francis Obikwelu and Gloria Alozie switched alliances to Portugal and Spain, respectively. In wrestling, Daniel Igali from Bayelsa switched alliance to Canada and got them their first ever Olympic gold. In football, Emmanuel Olisadebe represented Poland and even played all 3 matches of the 2002 World Cup for them, scoring 1 goal. The list goes on, and it's not unique to the Southeast and South-South. But the question is, where is the professionalism and what needs to be done? And to help us answer these questions is Afia Sports Desk Head, Ceecee Emechebe, and we'll be talking about the business of managing sportsmen. Good morning, Ceecee.
Good morning to you, Mr. Nnamdi.
Let me start from here, straight off the bat. What is it? What is this lack of corporate structure in our sporting bodies that seems to make us less professional than bodies in other countries, even neighboring West African countries?
Well, it's really sad because, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. This is, I think, in terms of structure, in a way, I think in terms of the content, the crux of the matter, it's almost like a follow-up of the discussion that we had here, in the build-up to the marathon, the Coast City International Marathon, and then also making reference to the issue of lack of facilities and everything. And there was something I said there, and it's still something that's proven to be true. When something is not a priority, then you treat it shabbily. It's not an issue. It seems as though the sector generally, and then the welfare of the sports, the athletes in question in particular, is something that's just in the back burner. It's something that's behind the scenes. Nobody's looking at that. And that's really, I'm not trying to be a prophet of doom, but there will be more defections, if you can call that, because the structure is not right. It's not a priority. When you talk about the sporting structure, if you put a sporting structure and a system in place, it's because you understand the purpose of sports, you understand the viability of the sporting sector and what it can do. We've seen how sports is a big thing, a big deal in different parts of the world, especially those who do not play with it. They know that the issue of dragging tourists, increasing tourist attraction, getting more people to invest in the sporting sector is something that goes on everywhere. Sports is a key component of the IGR, that's the IGR of countries and economies. Yeah. So if it's invested in, you're going to get returns. But people seem to lack the foresight in this part of the world. That's why that brain drain is going on, sadly. And Favour Ofili's case was just the latest of, that matter. And I think I heard somebody saying something out of panic. I would say it's panic, saying, what if Toby Amuson decides to throw that same line? What if Toby Amuson decides to throw that same line? Even though I sincerely doubt that, because the truth of the matter is some of these athletes that are doing quite well for Nigeria, who still represent Nigeria, are based and have the facilities that are helping them, which is a further indictment on the state of sports here in the country. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned foreign-based athletes doing better, because in terms of what it takes to be athletes, the Nigerian build, muscle mass, bone density, in fact, the West African build, and we see that same build in the Jamaicans, the Americans, the most powerful track and field people, the most powerful athletes generally in any sport in terms of raw strength. We have all that, but yet we are not a powerhouse, a global powerhouse in any sport. This is despite the fact that we've had both Samuel Peters and Anthony Joshua in recent times of Nigerian heritage. Why is it that we have all the material? I mean, I remember, well, at least you remember too, it was from our time where we knew at the Olympics we were sure of our 4x1 men's silver, 4x1 women's bronze. Yes. We're sure of our silvers and bronzes in boxing. Those things are just, where are the David Nzorites, where are the Jerry Okoro Dudus? And it's almost like since the death of, legendary promoter, who I'm proud to call my uncle, the late Chief Francis Ayegbeni, boxing promotion just seems to be neither here nor there. I know Ralph Ladipo has tried with the Boxing Board of Control to put some structure, but it seems as if, and I know DSTV actually tried to, Go TV,
push boxing, having fight nights. I have people in Lagos like CBF, but there seems to be something wrong with the very structure of Nigeria. And this is encapsulated in the fact that just as she started the process of naturalization, the same AFM board that messed her up was re-elected. Nobody was fired. In fact, they were rewarded. Is this Nigerian culture, which happens in our businesses and our government, of failing upwards? Now, my question is, how are we going to stop this rot? How do we bring in the professionalism? Or do we just resign ourselves to losing every good thing we have? Like, so now we have not finished losing doctors and lawyers, we're now losing athletes.
No, I mean, I'll just be very, very honest. The latter point you raised will be very, very pathetic, to be wrong, because it will be a defeatist mentality that drives that. We can't just resign our fate to what is ours, because anyhow you want to see this, we are Nigerians. We own this country. That is the truth. Yeah. The responsibility of running this country, running different sectors of the country, rests squarely on our shoulders. It's quite, the issue right now is, like I said, an issue of priority. The priorities are misplaced. And part of the problem, I've talked about that several times, over and over, and I'll keep on saying it till I sound like a broken record. The issue is that when you have people who do not have the required vision for sports development, then there is a wrong thing. You're a square peg in a round hole. Why? Because most times you have career politicians that run these things. You rightly pointed out the AFN board that was responsible for messing up Favor of Philly in 2020 Olympics. That's the 2020 build up to the Tokyo 2020 Olympics games. The athletes that were supposed to have gone through the different tests.
Doping tests, and they fumbled.
They fumbled it big time. Did not provide the required material that was needed. They didn't submit all that they needed to submit to the Athletics Federation. That's the IOC. And IOC asked, and when they did not do that, and conveniently, somebody who struggled and labored for 4 solid years in a meet, in an event that she is more comfortable with, that she knows she can actually bring something about, you just killed her dreams. And it's not like, I think in the words of, I'm a big fan of James Bond movies. I like thrillers. But there's one James Bond character, a James Bond villain called Goldfinger, or Goldfinger. Now, he said something once. He said, once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, thrice is enemy action. I think it's gotten to the point where the twice is not just coincidence, because it happened to her in 2020 and 2024. The same 100 meters she was not registered for, and the same fellows that were involved in that, like you said, were re-elected. So it just tells you, look, it tells you that the system, I'll just say the system, is enabling a culture of impunity, a culture of mediocrity, a culture of nepotism, a culture of should I say blatant corruption? Let's put it that way. Yeah. And obviously, Favor of Philly is just 22. She will turn, I think, 23 on December 31st. So she's still young. She still has her bright future ahead. Yeah. And I'm sure she must have done her consultations. She obviously, you mentioned Gloria Alonze. Before we had Toby Amusa, there was Gloria Alonze.
I mean, her own case was pathetic. She was representing Nigeria, and a vehicle killed her fiancé. And there was no help. She struggled to bring the cops back. She was abandoned. Basically. And the same, and here's the parallel we need to draw between those 2 events. Yes. The same nonsense that was said then, which she made it difficult for us to reach her and consult, is the same nonsense we are hearing now, that Favor of Philly did not make herself available for consultation. It's pathetic. The more we hear it, it would have been funny if we were not pathetic. Now, it even brings to mind like someone like this lady, the girl that won, Annette, I can't remember her surname, the one that won a silver medal for the United States of America in this last Olympics. Yes. In I think it was the hammer throw. Yes. Yes. She submitted herself. She made herself available in 6 different locations. For the test. The tests were not carried out. And she was just abandoned there. Now, when you see that culture of anyhowness, like we say in this part of the world, naturally people will use their tongue and count their teeth. So really, this is a case of the system failing the athletes. You mentioned names. There's a long list. Very long list. Florence Umo Odo, so I think she switched in 1995. 30 years now, I remember it vividly. And she even made an emphatic statement that her children, who are also into athletics, will never represent Nigeria. I mean, we saw Emmanuel turned away from Nigerian camp, going to the camp and turned away because he didn't have an NFF, maybe NFF letter. And you know this thing, as somebody who's involved in football academy, I can tell you, you take players for trial at under 17, under 23, or when they have the open camp. You bring your academy boys, go and test yourself against the best. And then you see people coming there, state FA chairman from Susansu State, state FA chairman, and they're coming with letters from who? And they're asking you at the gate from who? And you see people who are much older. Again, you talked about priorities. Yes. The priority of age-grade tournaments is to develop talents for the major tournaments where there's money.
Yes.
But we decided to use corruption and win the age-grade tournament. And, you know, this is a conspiracy theory. I think the Europeans know, and they're happy to let us cheat at that level. Because we are bringing overage players to develop their kids. Yes. They're using us as training fodder.
Yes.
By the time we get to the level where there's real money in football, our players will be burnt out and old, and we would have trained their players well to be world beaters. That's what I think.
And I think I took the same line. We're echoing the same sentiments, because that's pretty much what it is. Otherwise, if you're looking at the vested in, because it's all down to vested interest.
Yeah.
There's no way anybody can convince me that if something is going wrong, and then it's going to benefit you generally, because the world of sports is a global village. It's a global village, and it has a way of affecting every single country, every single federation, every single nationality that's involved in that, because of this issue of cultural exchange and all whatnot. If, just like you rightly pointed out, the age cheats are called out as and when due and exposed, if it benefits the powers that be, who obviously have some of the best athletes, and like you pointed out earlier, the issue of the advantages that we have, though we are much stronger. I'm referring to say we are referring to those who are of Negroid, the Negroid race, though, especially from Nigeria. I have to be very honest with you. We're much more muscular, we have more endurance, we have everything. But at the end of the day, it's down to structure, facilities, because the agility of a monkey is solely dependent on the availability of the branches, because it will be frustrated when there's nothing that's on ground. And that's what these athletes have seen. And they've gone to pastures new. Many have gone to represent Bahrain, some have gone to represent Qatar, some have gone to represent the Iberian Peninsula, that's Spain and Portugal, like Obikwelu you mentioned. So, and that's the striking thing. It's not just, funnily enough, it's not just a Nigerian problem. It is more peculiar to Nigeria, but it's like an African thing, because generally, in this part of the world that's termed as third world, the development levels are relatively low, and it's
so let me ask you a question: where does patriotism come in? And I'll say this because you see that the best Ethiopians and best Kenyans are not the ones that defect.
Yes.
It's probably those who couldn't crack the top three.
Yes, there are surplus requirements.
Surplus requirements. They defected somewhere so they could go to the Olympics.
Yes.
Because they knew this guy is going to run for the next 10 years.
Yes.
I might as well go and run for Bahrain. I might as well go and run for Qatar. Why is the opposite the case in Nigeria, where our very best, and you know, the only places we see this is things like, you look at basketball, the Nigerians who know that they would not make the US dream team.
Yes, exactly.
Will come and play for Nigeria. But we see people like Bam playing for the US. They don't play for Nigeria. Those who are very, very good will not play for Nigeria. I mean, even Adetokunbo is playing for Greece. He's their captain. They'll tell you that's his national team. That's where he was raised. And even his brother never thought one day of saying, maybe I'll represent Nigeria. You know? And their parents are still very, very, very Nigerian in culture.
Yes.
You know, it's not, they were not even born in Greece. They came from Nigeria.
Yes.
So you have a situation where even people who have a chance to represent Nigeria would rather not. You know, we see the ladies who represent us in basketball. I mean, they're not going to replace Caitlin Clark and co in US. So they're playing for Nigeria. And the sad part is that a lot of them are not even in the WNBA or in the NBA. College basketball players are far superior in quality to what we produce locally. Nigerians will argue with you and tell you, please, I've played basketball with festival boys. Let us call a spade a spade. Because college in America is one step away from the NBA.
That's it, just one.
Literally the best players in the college are the next NBA people.
The drafts are presented and then they just pull them out there.
And there's even some really talented high school players that go. I think an assembled Nigerian side will struggle with a top high school in the US.
I think I'll beg to differ. I'll agree totally, because they have a culture there that's working for them. The infrastructure are on ground. They are ready to develop these players. They already have the conveyor belts, like you mentioned. Basically, that's what I said. There's a conveyor belt that they are aware is exporting the best, the cream of the crop, to the next level in the NBA. And they know that the NBA has a global market. Everybody's watching. So they can't afford to showcase mediocrity. So that's why because it's a priority to them.
And now you have those who couldn't make it in the NBA. They are stars in EuroLeague. Yeah. The G League is there in the background as well, doing very well. So a lot of people are even in the G League. And then we see other ones like the 3-on-3 and other things coming out. So, is it that in 1993, after Japan, and back to back, we had this golden run of 93 Japan, 94 Tunisia, 94 US, 96 Atlanta. Would it be that football became the crude oil of Nigerian sports that made them forget? They will be forgetting everything else like agriculture, textiles, and fish crude oil. Could it be that football became our crude oil? Because people started seeing ways to illicitly make money. Because just like crude oil, they're not even using the resource well. Yeah. It's just going to the hands of the pockets. Can we lay the blame at the feet of football?
I think football will take a sizable chunk of the blame. Not all the blame, definitely, because there are other factors that are involved that do that. Like I said, one of the things is the lack of foresight. Because at the end of the day, and it's still down to that thing I said earlier, when you have career politicians running things, all they're looking at is power play. Otherwise, how do you expect somebody who is being in politics, somebody who is in a position of power in sports administration, and you're there for donkey's years because you just want to maintain power? You're not thinking about progress, you're not upwardly mobile, you're not thinking about developing the next level of athletes. That's why I'm always a big advocate for those who are practitioners. That's why you look at someone like Igali. You mentioned Igali. Igali's case was even different. He represented Canada because at the time he was in Canada, he applied for asylum because of the uncertainty, political uncertainty in the country. So it wasn't really his fault. It was his life he was trying to save at that point. But he's giving back. Now, this is somebody who has always had his eye on Nigeria. So really, looking at the end of the day, football definitely has taken a lot of the attention. And it's like the crude oil, like you said. Football is more lucrative. That's why typically when you check most, especially in Nigeria, when you check most sporting outfits, it's more like 80-20. Sadly, if not 90-10. That's in terms of the attention given to football vis-a-vis other kinds of sports. Yeah. And it's spread across every sector. So I think that's part of the problem. But if we have the right people, square pegs in square holes, round pegs in round holes, who are there, who understand sports, who understand sports science, who understand sports, that's practicing sports, and then they know exactly the importance of other sports activities. Because at the end of the day, nobody's going to fall in love with a sporting activity until the person understands it fully and it is modeled, and then there's the right structure on ground to promote it. So at the end of the day, yes, football has taken most of the shine, I have to agree. You pointed out that out from the 1993 generation down, and many other sports have been swept under the carpet. But I think it starts with going back to the fundamentals, making sure that sports development, generally, not football development, sports development is a priority. And that's part of the reason, if it's a priority, what is a priority to you will require a lot of money from you. You're going to make investments. You check the budget and see what percentage of the budget goes towards sports development. So whenever you see the percentage of something in a budget, it tells you the level of value that thing has and the level of priority, how high up it is on the priority list. So I think that's the first thing. Let us understand the potential of sports generally. Then start investing in all the other sectors of sports. Of course, I mean, I'll be very, very out of touch with reality if I say that we should just sweep football aside. No, that will never happen. Football will always have the major attention in Nigeria. But there should be a considerable amount of attention channeled towards all the other sports. Athletics, boxing, badminton, tennis, even cricket. We have a growing cricket community here in Nigeria.
It's funny how as early as 1996, I was playing cricket at King's College.
Just imagine that.
As early as 1996. So I think this point you've made about going back to development is key. Perhaps we've lost our love for sports.
Generally, I think
it's become just for money and livelihood. Maybe we've become the Brazilian national team of countries. We've lost our flair. We've lost our style.
Well, just a feeder team, basically, I think, because people are trying to survive, trying to make a name for themselves. I know, which brings us back to that issue, patriotism. You talked about patriotism. Where do you draw the line between patriotism and pragmatism? Because many of these athletes are pragmatics. They are athletes. Yes, some will say, okay, you're a Nigerian first before being an athlete. I agree. But you will make Nigeria proud with your platform. If you don't have a platform, nobody will know you.
You'll be a Nigerian all your life, but you'll only be an athlete for a few years till your body tells you no more.
That's it.
I think it's a discussion that will still continue and we'll have to. You can never have enough time to talk about the issues of Nigeria.
Never.
Thank you so much for being here this morning. Of course, you can catch Ceecee if you're in Enugu on Afia 99.3 FM every morning at 7:15. 7:30. And of course, on Saturday mornings at 10:30 a.m. on Afia 254 DSTV, GoTV 17, Free TV 748, Afia Sports. You can watch him and. Will I call him your academy presenter, your feeder presenter?
I will say that.
That's all we can take on the Eastern Business Report. But Afia Business Morning is not yet over. If you're in Dule, Market Pekin is ready to take you into the market. See the traders, see the products. Our market comes up right after this. Stay tuned to 254 on channel 254 DSTV, 17 on GoTV, and of course 748 on Free TV. Till I see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow for another edition of the Afia Business Morning. I'm Nnamdi Obanya saying have a very profitable business day.